No one can walk the path of life for you, no matter how much your parents love you, no matter how willing your friends are to help. There are still stretches of road you must walk alone. There are roads full of stones, days when you feel you can't go on. But it is from these steps and suffering that happiness quietly begins to sprout. In this video, we reflect on why each person must walk their own path and why hardship is the fertile ground for growth. Watch until the end and share your story in the comments. Perhaps your journey will inspire someone who is feeling weary. Life doesn't roll out the red carpet for everyone. Every dream requires effort and perseverance. When faced with challenges, many wish someone else could bear the burden for them. But if all obstacles were removed, we would never know how strong we truly are. It is our falls that teach us how to get back up. It is our failures that help us understand the value of success. There are days when you feel alone on a long journey. You wonder why everything is so difficult. But remember that seeds only sprout when buried in dark soil. The same is true for people. Growth often begins in seemingly the darkest moments. When you decide to keep going despite your exhaustion, you are sowing the seeds for the future. Walking your own path doesn't mean rejecting help. You can listen to advice, learn from experience, and seek support when needed. But the final decision and ultimate responsibility still rest with you. When you take on that responsibility, you empower yourself to be the master of your own life. Hardship is not an enemy. It is a strict teacher. It forces you to reflect on yourself, hone your character, and cultivate your willpower. If everything were always easy, you wouldn't appreciate your achievements. If you've never experienced suffering, you'll find it difficult to fully appreciate joy. So, don't be afraid of the bumpy roads ahead. Every step, however slow, is meaningful. Every challenge, however great, contains a lesson. When you dare to move forward on your own 2 feet, you are writing your own unique story that no one else can replace. Watch the entire video, reflect on your journey, and share your story in the comments. Perhaps from these genuine experiences, we can find more strength together to continue moving forward. The path beneath our feet is our own choice. No one can live your life for you. No one can bear the consequences for you. This seemingly simple statement contains a truth that many take a long time to confront. We can receive advice from family, friends, and teachers. We can learn from the experiences of those who came before us. But ultimately, the one who chooses which path to take is us. From a young age, we begin to learn how to make choices. Choosing friends to play with, choosing favorite subjects, choosing how to react when misunderstood. As we grow older, these choices become bigger and more significant. Choosing a field of study, a job, companions, whether to stay or leave. Each decision silently opens one path and closes many others. Many people often say they have no choice, but in reality, not having a choice is also a choice. When you procrastinate on a decision, you are choosing procrastination. When you remain silent in the face of an opportunity, you are choosing to ignore that opportunity. When you let others decide for you, you are choosing to give them control over your life. The hardest thing isn't how many paths lie ahead, but daring to take responsibility for the path you choose. Because once you've started, you must accept both success and failure. If you choose correctly, you reap the rewards. If you choose wrongly, you face the consequences. No one can live your life for you, nor can anyone bear the burden of your decisions for you. Some people, out of fear of making mistakes, try to please everyone. They choose their field of study according to their family's wishes. They choose their jobs according to society's expectations. They choose a lifestyle that conforms to the majority. Yet, when faced with difficulties, they feel empty, because deep down, they know they never truly chose for themselves. Living according to other people's choices might help you avoid initial pressure. But in the long run, it creates far greater pressure. It leads to feelings of disorientation, lack of motivation, and loss of self-confidence. When you're not the one making the decisions, it's difficult to fully commit to your work. And when the results aren't what you hoped for, it's easy to blame the circumstances or the person who dictated your path. Conversely, when you make your own choices, you gain a different kind of strength. Even if the path is bumpy, you have a reason to persevere. Even if you have to pay a price, you understand that it's the cost of a carefully considered decision. This proactive approach allows you to grow faster and become more resilient. The path beneath your feet isn't always clear. Sometimes you stand at a crossroads and don't know which way is right. But no one can give you an absolute answer. Everyone has different circumstances, abilities, and dreams. What's right for someone else may not be right for you. So instead of asking someone what you should do, ask yourself what you truly want. What are you willing to sacrifice to achieve your goal? Do you have the determination to see it through? Those questions are more important than any advice. Of course, taking responsibility doesn't mean isolating yourself. You can still seek advice, listen to analysis, and weigh the risks. But the final decision must stem from self-understanding. When you understand your values, limitations, and aspirations, you'll choose a more suitable path. One of the reasons many people hesitate to make choices is the fear of failure. They worry that if they choose wrong, people will judge them. They worry that if they don't succeed, they will lose face. But the truth is, failure, when achieved through making a choice, is more valuable than success achieved through luck or reliance on others. Every time you make a decision on your own, you are training your ability to think independently. You learn to analyze, consider, and predict the consequences. Regardless of the outcome, you accumulate experience. It is this experience that gradually builds your character. Some people choose a stable path and feel content. Others choose to take risks to pursue their passions. There's no perfect path. There is only the path that suits you at that moment. The important thing is that you understand why you chose it and are willing to see it through to the end. When you understand that no one can live your life for you, you'll stop comparing your life to others. Others may have achieved success earlier, become wealthier, or more famous. But they are on their own path. You are on yours. Comparison only distracts you from your current progress. The fact that no one else will bear the consequences for you is a powerful reminder. If you are lazy today, you will pay the price with missed opportunities. If you don't hone your skills, you will fall behind. If you don't take care of your health, you will suffer the long-term consequences. Conversely, if you strive every day, you will be the one to reap the rewards. If you persevere in the face of difficulties, you will be the one to experience the joy of overcoming them. Everything comes back to you. Being responsible for your choices isn't easy. There are times when you wish someone else could make the decisions for you, so you wouldn't have to worry. But only when you take responsibility yourself do you truly grow. You learn to stand on your own 2 feet without anyone's support. You learn to be confident when you're no longer dependent on the approval of others. The road ahead may be long and challenging, but every step is meaningful if it's a step you actively choose. You have the right to change direction when you realize you're going in the wrong direction. But that change must come from your own decision, not from external pressure. Life waits for no one. Time passes whether you choose it or not. So instead of hesitating, be brave and make a decision. You might be wrong, you might have to adjust, but at least you're being true to yourself. Looking back on your journey, what makes you proud isn't the smooth path, but the times you dared to take responsibility. The times you dared to say, I chose this path, and I accept the consequences. It is this attitude that makes a strong and resilient person. The path beneath your feet is your own choice. No one can live your life for you, and no one can bear the consequences for you. Understanding this, you will stop waiting for someone to change your life. You will start with small decisions each day. You will walk with awareness and courage. And when you are steadfast enough in your chosen path, whether you succeed or fail, you can still hold your head high, because you know that you have lived by your own decisions, not by the arrangements of others. Suffering is an inevitable part of the journey to maturity. Avoiding difficulties only weakens us. This is not an encouragement for blind endurance, but a truth that anyone who has experienced enough setbacks can understand. Maturity doesn't come from peaceful days. It is forged in periods where we are forced to confront challenges, losses, and even silent pain. When we were young, we often believed that the ideal life was one without difficulties. We thought that happiness meant continuous good fortune. But as we grow older, we realize that no one can complete their journey without experiencing suffering. Everyone has moments when it seems unbearable, moments when they want to give up because they are too tired. Suffering manifests in many forms. It could be academic failure, a job not meeting expectations, a broken relationship, or feeling lonely in a crowd. Some pains are clearly visible. Some pains are known only to us. But whatever form they take, they all carry a message if we are calm enough to listen. What makes many people slow to mature isn't a lack of ability, but rather a tendency to avoid difficulties. They find ways to avoid facing the truth. They postpone difficult decisions. They refuse to step out of their comfort zone. In the short term, this feels good. But in the long run, it weakens their willpower and diminishes their character. Like muscles, the mind also needs to be trained by pressure. If a person never has to push themselves beyond their limits, they will never know where their true strength lies. When we avoid challenges, we miss the opportunity to discover our hidden potential. Suffering is not the enemy. It is a harsh teacher. When you fail, you learn a lesson about preparation and perseverance. When you are rejected, you understand more about your self-worth and how to improve yourself. When you lose something important, you realize what truly matters. Of course, in a moment of pain, no one feels grateful for the lesson learned. You might feel angry, disappointed, or sad. Those emotions are perfectly natural. Growing up doesn't mean you can't be vulnerable. Growing up means allowing yourself to feel pain, but not letting it define you entirely. Some people withdraw after a single setback. They're afraid to try again because they don't want to be hurt again. But it's this very fear that makes them stop. Every time we avoid a challenge, we inadvertently send ourselves the message that we're not strong enough. Over time, our self-confidence diminishes. Conversely, when we dare to face challenges, even if trembling, we are building a solid foundation for self-confidence. It's not because we are certain of success, but because we know we have the courage to try. Each time we overcome a difficulty, it is a brick in building our character. Suffering also helps us understand others better. Having experienced pain, we can more easily empathize with the suffering of those around us. We no longer judge superficially. We know that behind every smile may lie a silent battle. Maturity lies not only in achievements, but also in the ability to empathize and be tolerant. Avoiding difficulties is sometimes disguised as rationality. We tell ourselves that it's not the right time. We say we need more time. We wait until we feel completely ready. But the truth is, there's rarely a perfect time. If we keep waiting until we're no longer afraid, we'll wait a very long time. The journey of growth requires accepting that we will sometimes fail. Instead of asking how to avoid suffering, we can ask what we have learned from this experience. That question shifts us from the position of victim to the position of learner. Some pain is unavoidable, but we can choose how we react. We can let it bitterly affect us or use it as motivation for change. The difference lies in our attitude. When we view difficulties as a natural part of life, we panic less and blame less. Suffering also helps us define our values. When faced with a choice between ease and what is right, we understand what we prioritize. When faced with trade-offs, we realize what is more important in life. These moments shape the people we become. Many people admire the confidence and resilience of others, but forget that behind it all are countless instances of facing failure. No one becomes strong simply by reading books or listening to advice. True strength is created through experience and overcoming challenges. The important thing is not to seek out suffering, but not to run away from it when it arises. When a challenge comes, instead of asking why it has to be me, we can ask ourselves what we will do next. That action determines whether we stand still or take a step forward. Avoiding difficulties may keep us safe for a while, but it narrows our world. We are afraid to try new things. We are afraid to express our opinions. We hesitate to pursue our dreams. Life gradually becomes smaller because of the limitations we set for ourselves. Conversely, when we accept that suffering is an inevitable part of life, we move forward with a different mindset. We understand that challenges are not a sign that we are on the wrong path. Sometimes they are proof that we are moving forward. Each time we overcome a difficult period, we look back and see that we have changed. We may not realize it immediately, but the change happens subtly. We become more patient, calmer, and understand ourselves better. That is what maturity is. Life doesn't promise a smooth journey, and it gives us the ability to learn from what happens. Suffering may bring us to tears, but it can also reveal a stronger version of ourselves. Suffering is an inevitable part of the journey to maturity. Avoiding difficulties only weakens us. We dare to face them, dare to overcome them, and dare to learn. We not only conquer a challenge, but also expand our own limits. And in that process, we gradually become the person we've always wanted to be. Helen Keller's story is often cited as a powerful symbol of human resilience and willpower. Deaf and blind from a very young age, she seemed to have been deprived of almost all opportunities to learn, communicate, and integrate into the world. However, through extraordinary perseverance and an unwavering spirit, she educated herself, rose above her circumstances, and became an inspiration to millions around the world. Helen Keller was born like any other child. But when she was just over a year old, she contracted a serious illness that caused her to lose both her hearing and sight. The world suddenly plunged into absolute darkness and silence. Unable to hear sounds or see light, she was completely isolated from her surroundings. In her early years, she was confused and angry because she could not express her needs. Many people, upon hearing about her circumstances, assumed that her life was cut short at a very young age. At that time, society lacked many educational options for the deaf and blind. Opportunities for learning were virtually non-existent. But a turning point came when a young teacher appeared in her life. This teacher patiently taught her how to associate sign language with objects, helping her understand that everything around her had a name. The moment Helen Keller realized that the symbols touching her hands represented specific things, opened a new door for her. From then on, she began learning Braille, learning to communicate, and gradually expanding her understanding. The miracle lay not in the method, but in her determination. She refused to live within the limitations imposed by her circumstances. Her learning journey was far from easy. Each abstract concept required far more effort than the average person. She had to perceive the world through touch and imagination. She had to learn to express her thoughts without being able to hear her own voice. But instead of giving up, she saw it as motivation to try harder. With the dedicated support of her teachers and family, Helen Keller not only learned to read and write, but also went on to pursue higher education. She became one of the first deaf and blind people to graduate from university. That achievement was almost unimaginable at the time. But her story doesn't end with academic achievements. She became a writer, speaker, and social activist. She travels far and wide to share her story, raise awareness for people with disabilities, and promote equality. Through her own life, she proves that the greatest limitations are not in the body, but in belief. What made Helen Keller an icon of resilience wasn't just her overcoming her disability. More importantly, it was her attitude towards life. She didn't see herself as a victim of fate. She didn't wallow in self-pity. Instead, she chose to focus on what she could do. Her story reminds us that difficult circumstances do not determine the future. Many of us have all our senses, access to education and information, yet easily become discouraged by small challenges. Meanwhile, someone living in obscurity and silence can still rise above and create immense value. Helen Keller once shared that the worst thing is not being able to see. Not being able to see. That statement contains a profound message. Physical disabilities may limit some abilities, but a lack of purpose and willpower is what truly stops a person. With clear goals, people can find ways to move forward. Her strength wasn't about rigidity or denying emotions. She also experienced moments of despair and loneliness. But each time, she chose to keep going. It was this repeated choice that made her an extraordinary person. Helen Keller's story also illustrates the power of education and belief. When someone believes in you and gives you a chance, a child who seems to have been left behind can break through powerfully. The belief of others may be the first spark, but it is your own efforts that keep that light from fading. Today, her name is mentioned in many lessons about willpower and overcoming adversity. But the greatest value she left behind is not her fame. It is a reminder that everyone has the ability to overcome limitations if they don't give up. Helen Keller's life is clear proof that adversity can be a springboard. Deaf and blind from a young age, she educated herself and rose above her circumstances, not because the path was easy, but because she refused to give up. Looking at that story, we can ask ourselves what difficulties we are facing. Compared to the absolute darkness and silence she once faced, our challenges may not be so great. What we need is perhaps not perfect conditions, but unwavering determination. Helen Keller's story is not just a story about disability, it's a story of faith, perseverance, and self-improvement. It reminds us that no matter how harsh the circumstances, people can still choose their attitude towards life. And it is in that very choice that resilience is forged, hope is nurtured, and things that seemed impossible become possible. It is only when we stumble that we understand what we need to change. Failure is a lesson that cannot be bought with money. There are things that we will never truly understand if we only hear them from others. Only when we experience them ourselves, feel the pain ourselves, and get back up ourselves, do we truly understand the value of those lessons. In life, no one can avoid failure. Whether in studies, work, or relationships, there will be times when we set high expectations, but the results are not as hoped. Feelings of disappointment, shame, and self-reproach can make us want to withdraw. But it is precisely these moments that open up opportunities for self-reflection. When things go smoothly, people rarely question themselves. It's easy to believe we're already good enough, doing things right, and don't need any further adjustments. Success after success can lead to complacency. Only when we stumble do we stop and ask ourselves why things didn't go according to plan. Failure is like a mirror clearly reflecting weaknesses that we previously didn't want to acknowledge. Perhaps we lacked preparation. Perhaps we underestimated the difficulties. Perhaps we lacked perseverance or focus. These things are difficult to recognize without experiencing them. Many people view failure as the end. They believe that one mistake is proof of their own incompetence. But in reality, failure is just a part of the learning process. No one is born knowing how to do everything right from the start. Every skill, every achievement, is built on a foundation of trial and error. What makes failure valuable isn't the pain, but how we react afterward. If we only dwell on regret and blame, the lesson will be meaningless. But if we dare to analyze the causes, dare to acknowledge our mistakes, and dare to change, failure will become a stepping stone to progress. There are life lessons that cannot be learned from books. We can read hundreds of business books, but only when we run a business ourselves and face losses do we understand what real pressure is. We can hear a lot of advice about love. Only after experiencing heartbreak do we understand how to cherish and maintain a relationship. Failure cannot be bought with money because it is intrinsically linked to personal experience. Others may tell their stories, but the emotions, thoughts, and inner transformation only emerge when we confront it directly. It is this process that creates growth. When we stumble, we also learn humility. We realize that we are not always right. We understand that there is still much to learn. Humility helps us open ourselves to feedback and improve. Without failure, we might forever live in an illusion of our own abilities. Failure also trains us to be patient. After a setback, getting up and trying again requires a great deal of courage. We must overcome the fear of being judged and the anxiety of repeating the same mistakes, but with each attempt, we get closer to our goal. Many highly successful people have experienced countless failures. Their commonality isn't that they never made mistakes, but rather that they didn't let those mistakes define them. They viewed each setback as data to adjust their strategy. This mindset is what makes the difference. When we accept failure as a natural part of the journey, we become less afraid. We dare to try new things. We dare to step out of our comfort zone. If we are too afraid of making mistakes, we will never dare to do anything. Doing nothing means limiting our own potential. Stumbling blocks also help us understand our goals better. If one failure makes us easily give up, perhaps that goal isn't important enough. But if after all, we still want to continue, it shows that our inner desire is strong enough. It is this perseverance that creates lasting motivation. Failure also teaches us how to take responsibility. Instead of blaming circumstances, we learn to look at our own part. Taking responsibility helps us proactively change. When we realize we can improve, we empower ourselves to control future outcomes. Many people only see the surface of success, ignoring the failures behind it. They compare themselves to others' final results and feel inferior when they stumble. But every journey has difficult twists and turns. What we see is only the tip of the iceberg. When we understand that failure is a lesson that cannot be bought with money, we will appreciate even unpleasant experiences. Instead of asking why this happened to us, we can ask what we learned from it. That question shifts our thinking from resentment to growth. Real change often begins after a stumble. Perhaps we change how we manage our time, how we communicate, or how we set goals. Maybe we learn to listen more and act more cautiously. Every small adjustment contributes to becoming a better version of ourselves. Life doesn't promise that every effort will yield immediate results, but it always gives us opportunities to learn from each attempt. Looking back on past setbacks, we can realize that they led us to our current path. It is only when we stumble that we understand what we need to change. Failure is a lesson that cannot be bought with money. If we appreciate and utilize it, it will become a solid foundation for future success. And it is in the process of facing, correcting mistakes, and moving forward that we gradually grow and become stronger every day. The story of a young entrepreneur is always full of emotions, especially when that journey isn't just about the glamour, but also includes difficult times filled with failure and debt. This is the story of a young man who once believed that a great idea and passion alone were enough to succeed. But reality taught him a costly lesson. He started his entrepreneurial journey right after leaving a stable job. He yearned for freedom and wanted to create something of his own. He saw an opportunity in the market, pooled all his savings, and borrowed more from friends to start a small company. In the beginning, everything was exciting. He worked from morning till night, believing that hard work would compensate for any shortcomings. However, after only a few months, problems began to emerge. Operating costs were higher than anticipated. Revenue was unstable. He lacked experience in managing cash flow, leading to uncontrolled spending. Contracts were canceled, customers were late in payments, while other accounts payable were still due. Financial pressure gradually weighed heavily on him. Ultimately, the first project failed. The company had to close down. The investment was almost completely lost, leaving only debts to pay. From a confident and optimistic person, he fell into a state of confusion. He wondered if he had been too naive to think that passion alone was enough. He felt ashamed facing his family and friends who had believed in him. The following days were the most difficult. He had to cut back on all personal expenses. He took on extra jobs to pay off his debts. At times, he felt like he had hit rock bottom. But it was during that seemingly dark period that he began to change his perspective. Instead of blaming circumstances or the market, he sat down and analyzed each mistake. He realized he had rushed into expansion without a solid financial foundation. He lacked management skills, a clear understanding of cash flow and risk. He focused on the idea while neglecting the operational system. He started reading books on management, finance, and business strategy. He took short courses to supplement his knowledge. More importantly, he learned patience. Previously, he wanted everything to happen quickly. After his failure, he understood that sustainable growth is more important than speed. The debt repayment period stretched over many years. Seeing how much of his income each month went towards paying off the old debt, he clearly understood the value of being thrifty. He learned to create detailed spending plans and control every small expense. Financial discipline gradually became a habit. That period also helped him mature mentally. He was no longer afraid when he heard the word failure, because he had experienced it and still stood strong. He understood that honor lies not in never having fallen, but in daring to take responsibility and correct mistakes. After paying off most of his debts, he began thinking about starting a business again. This time, he wasn't acting on impulse. He spent months researching the market, testing the product on a small scale, and building a network of partners. He also prepared a contingency fund for worst-case scenarios. When he officially restarted, he kept things small and manageable. He tightly controlled costs and only expanded when revenue was sufficiently stable. The lessons learned from his previous failure helped him avoid repeating past mistakes. He was calmer in the face of change and no longer panicked in the face of difficulties. His second startup didn't explode onto the scene quickly, but it grew steadily. Thanks to good cash flow management and a clear system in place, the business gradually achieved stable profits. More importantly, he was no longer burdened by the heavy debt he had faced before. Looking back, he admits that without that initial failure, he might have achieved early success, but without a solid foundation. That lack of experience could have led to a larger scale downfall. It was the period of debt and hardship that instilled in him caution and resilience. His story shows that failure isn't the end. It can be a crucial turning point if you're brave enough to learn from it. Debt and pressure caused him many sleepless nights, but they also forced him to change his mindset and habits. Starting a business is not just about making money, but also about personal growth. Ideas may be similar, but different people will achieve different results. After setbacks, he became a more patient and disciplined version of himself. Today, with his business stable, he often shares his story with other young people. He doesn't romanticize failure, but he emphasizes that the scariest thing isn't failure itself, but the fear of not daring to start again. He understood that his current success was built on the foundation of painful lessons learned in the past. If his first failure cost him money, he gained invaluable experience in return. And it was that experience that helped him achieve even greater success the next time. The story of that young entrepreneur is clear proof that falling is not the end. Sometimes the hardest fall is the one that teaches us how to stand firmest. No one grows up in their comfort zone for too long. Comfort allows potential seeds to lie dormant. This saying doesn't deny the value of stability, but emphasizes the fact that if people only stay in familiar places, they will struggle to discover their full potential. The comfort zone provides a sense of ease, but it can also become an invisible cage that stifles growth. A comfort zone is where we're accustomed to our current pace of life, work, and relationships. We know exactly what to do, what to say, and what to avoid. Their risks are minimized, and everything is under control. This isn't wrong. Everyone needs a period of stability to rest and recharge. But if you stay there too long, that stability can turn into stagnation. When things become too familiar, we have little motivation to change. We no longer question whether we can do better. We are no longer curious about our other capabilities. Comfort leads us to believe that the present is enough. And it is this very thought that keeps the seeds of potential dormant within us. People often only truly break through when placed in situations that force them to adapt. A new job with higher demands, a new environment with more challenges, or a goal exceeding their current capabilities can all create positive pressure. This pressure compels them to learn, improve, and push their limits. Without challenges, it's difficult to know how far we can go. Just as muscles need training to develop, abilities need to be challenged to mature. When we repeat a familiar task, skills may become proficient, but significant progress is rare. Prolonged security diminishes the need for creativity. Many people are afraid to leave their comfort zone because they worry about failure. They think that if they try something new and don't succeed, they will lose what they have. But sometimes the greater price is regret for not daring to try. As time goes by, opportunities for change diminish, and we may realize we have missed many possibilities. Comfort is like a soft, comfortable chair. Sitting on it for too long, we become accustomed to the pleasant feeling and reluctant to get up, but life is constantly changing. The market shifts, technology advances, and relationships evolve. If we don't upgrade ourselves, we will gradually fall behind. Stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't mean sacrificing everything. It can be small but purposeful steps. Learning a new skill, taking on a new responsibility, challenging yourself with a more difficult project. Each step helps broaden your horizons and boost your confidence. When we dare to step outside, we will encounter unexpected situations. We may make mistakes. We may feel inferior to others, but these feelings are signs that we are learning. Initial discomfort is often part of the growth process. The seed of potential within each person doesn't grow naturally. It needs the right environment and care. If you keep it in the same familiar pot, without changing the soil or its location in terms of sunlight, the plant will struggle to thrive. The same is true for people. We need new experiences to discover our hidden potential. Some people look back on their lives and realize they've stayed too long in a job that no longer challenges them. Everything is stable, but the excitement is gone. Repetition leaves them feeling empty. Only by daring to change can they rediscover their motivation and creativity. The comfort zone is not the enemy. It's necessary in certain stages. But if we consider it the final destination, we limit ourselves. Growing up is a continuous process. Each stage requires a higher level of challenge to continue moving forward. When we overcome a challenge, our comfort zone expands. What once frightened us becomes familiar, and to continue growing, we need to take another step. This process repeats itself, making us increasingly stronger. Prolonged comfort also reduces the ability to withstand pressure. When accustomed to an easy pace of life, even a small change can cause disorientation. Conversely, if we regularly challenge ourselves, we will be more adaptable to change. Many people wait for circumstances to force them to change, but waiting can make us passive. Proactively stepping out of our comfort zone helps us maintain control. We don't change because we're forced, but because we want to grow. Looking back, we are often most proud of the times we dared to try new things. Even if the results weren't perfect, we still cherish the experience. Those moments of overcoming fear leave a strong mark on our life journey. No one stays in their comfort zone for too long. Comfort allows potential to lie dormant. If you want to discover a better version of yourself, you need the courage to step outside your familiar boundaries. The road ahead may not be smooth, but it is precisely those bumps that will make you stronger. When we accept challenges as a natural part of life, we no longer fear change. Instead of clinging to stability, we learn to balance security and growth. And in that process, the seeds of potential gradually sprout, grow, and create achievements we never thought possible before. Nick Vujicic's story is a powerful testament to human resilience and mental strength. Born without arms and legs due to a rare syndrome, he faced feelings of inferiority, loneliness, and agonizing questions about his self-worth. But instead of letting adversity define his life, he overcame his limitations, becoming an inspirational speaker for millions around the world. From the moment he was born, Nick was different. His physical disability made him the center of attention and curious gazes. As a child, he had to learn to adapt to things that normal people do with ease. Grasping, walking, and even self-care were all major challenges. His childhood was far from easy. During his school years, he was often teased and ostracized. His differences made him feel out of place. There were times when he fell into despair, wondering why he was born this way. The pain wasn't just physical, it was also a feeling of not belonging. However, his family remained steadfastly by his side, encouraging him to believe that life still had meaning. That love and faith became an important support system. But ultimately, the final decision rested with him. He could remain consumed by guilt, or find a way to live life to the fullest with what he had. Gradually, Nick learned to perform basic tasks using the remaining parts of his body. He practiced writing, typing, and self-care. Each skill he acquired was a small victory, but one that held great significance. These steps helped him rebuild his self-confidence. More importantly, he changed his perspective on himself. Instead of focusing on what he lacked, he began to appreciate what he had. He realized that a person's value lies not only in their physical appearance, but also in their attitude towards life and how they face challenges. As an adult, Nick decided to share his story. Initially, he spoke to a small group, but his message touched the hearts of many. He spoke of hope, faith, and never giving up. His sincerity and genuine experience created a powerful impact. He traveled to many countries, speaking to thousands of people. Those who listened saw not just a speaker, but a man who had overcome adversity through sheer willpower. His story conveyed the message that the greatest limitations lie not in the body, but in the mind. Nick doesn't deny the difficulties. He admits that there are days when he still struggles with negative emotions. But he doesn't let those emotions control his life. He chooses to focus on a bigger goal, bringing hope to others. He also built his own family, proving that he deserves love and happiness, just like anyone else. The image of a man without arms and legs who still lives a fulfilling life as a husband and father makes many people reflect on how we often limit ourselves. Nick Vujicic's story raises an important question. Someone born with such a significant disability can rise above it all. What is truly holding us back? Is it circumstances, or is it fear and self-doubt? He once said that if he couldn't have a miracle to change his body, he would become a miracle for others. That spirit shows the power of transforming pain into motivation. Instead of blaming fate, he used his experience to encourage those who feel stuck. His story isn't just for people with disabilities. It's for anyone who has ever felt inadequate, compared themselves to others, and wanted to give up. He reminds us that everyone has their own value and can make a positive impact. Nick Vujicic's journey shows that growth doesn't depend on perfect conditions. It depends on choices made each day. The choice to get up instead of giving up, the choice to believe instead of despairing, the choice to act instead of complaining. Born without arms and legs, he overcame his insecurities to inspire millions. This is not a fairy tale, but the result of years of mental fortitude and willpower. He proves that when people accept reality and are determined to move forward, they can create great change. That story reminds us that difficulties are not a sentence. They can become the foundation for inner strength. And when we dare to overcome our own insecurities, we not only change our own lives, but we can also touch the lives of many others. Suffering teaches us to appreciate happiness. If we have never experienced hardship, we can hardly understand the value of abundance. Life is like a painting with light and shadow. If there were only light, we wouldn't realize how brilliant it is. If we have never gone through days of weariness and loss, we can hardly fully appreciate the joy when everything returns to peace. People often become accustomed to what they have. When health is good, we rarely think about preserving it. When family is complete, we easily take shared meals for granted. When work is stable, we rarely realize it's a blessing. Only when a part of these familiar things disappears do we suddenly realize their value. Lack of resources isn't just about money or material things. It can also mean a lack of attention, opportunities, or timely encouragement. Some people grow up in difficult circumstances and have to be independent from a very young age. This lack of resources forces them to work harder, think more maturely, and appreciate even the smallest achievements. When we have to scrimp and save on every expense, we understand the value of money. When we've experienced days alone, we learn to appreciate a truly sincere person. When we've tasted failure, we learn to cherish even the smallest successes. Suffering is not something we desire, but it gives us a deeper perspective on life. Some people only realize the value of family when they are far from home. Simple meals from the past suddenly become warm memories. Reminders that once annoyed us now become what we remember most. Distance and absence help us understand that happiness sometimes doesn't lie in grand things, but in very ordinary things. Suffering also teaches us empathy. Having experienced loss, we can more easily understand the sadness of others. Having felt lonely, we learn to listen better. Experiencing hardship softens our hearts and makes us more open. We no longer view life solely through our own lens, but learn to put ourselves in others' shoes. If we've never been unemployed, it's hard to understand the pressure faced by those struggling to find work. If we've never experienced loss, it's difficult to comprehend the emptiness felt by someone who has just parted ways with a loved one. It is these difficult experiences that help us mature emotionally. The truth is, people often only change when faced with difficulties. When things are going well, we easily become complacent. But when adversity strikes, we are forced to reflect on ourselves, to rearrange our priorities, and to learn to be stronger. This process, though painful, helps us grow. Suffering is like a strict teacher. It's not gentle, but the lessons it teaches are often profound. It teaches us that nothing lasts forever. It reminds us that everything can change in the blink of an eye. And so, we learn to appreciate the present more. Having lived in scarcity, we learn to appreciate having enough. Even a small house feels warm and cozy. A simple meal becomes precious. A peaceful, uneventful day is something to be cherished. Abundance is no longer taken for granted, but becomes a gift. Suffering also helps us understand ourselves better. It's during difficult times that we discover how strong we truly are. We find that our resilience and adaptability are greater than we imagined. Things we once thought impossible, we ultimately overcome. It is this experience that builds unwavering self-confidence. Some people, after going through a period of hardship, have completely changed their way of life. They become more frugal, think more long-term, and prepare for the future. They no longer waste time and opportunities as before. The hardship they experienced has become a driving force for them to build a better life. However, the important thing is not to seek out suffering, but to learn how to acknowledge it. No one wants to live in loss or hardship, but when it arises, we can choose our attitude. We can wallow in resentment, or see it as an opportunity to learn. If we've never experienced hardship, we might easily complain about trivial things. But once we've gone through truly difficult times, we realize that many things that once bothered us weren't actually that serious. A change in perspective changes the quality of life. Suffering can also make happiness clearer. After a long period of effort, an achievement becomes especially meaningful. After stressful days, a peaceful evening becomes precious. Happiness is no longer an abstract concept, but a concrete and profound feeling. Life cannot be all joy. If everything were always smooth sailing, we wouldn't know what it means to overcome challenges. And if we've never experienced hardship, we'd hardly understand the value of abundance. The contrast between difficulty and happiness gives depth to life's journey. Everyone has their own story about difficult times. It could be a deprived childhood, a major failure, or a family tragedy. These stories are not just memories. They form the foundation of who we are today. Thanks to them, we know who we are and how far we've come. Suffering teaches us to appreciate happiness, not because we enjoy suffering, but because it helps us see the light more clearly. If we have never experienced hardship, it is difficult to understand the value of abundance. When we understand that, we will slow down, be more grateful, and cherish what we have. And perhaps that is the deeper meaning of life's challenges. Not to break us down, but to remind us that happiness is always valuable, and every moment of peace is worth cherishing. Lonely days are when we learn to stand on our own 2 feet. No one can be with us all the time. In the long journey of life, there will be stretches filled with laughter, but also bends where we are left alone with our deepest thoughts. Loneliness isn't always a negative thing. Sometimes it is precisely those quiet moments that allow us to grow stronger. We've all experienced the feeling of being left behind. It might be when friends are busy with their own lives. It might be when family can't be around because of distance. It might be when a relationship ends and we have to learn to cope with the emptiness. Those days often feel longer than usual. Everything around us goes on, but inside there's a feeling of loss. Initially, loneliness frightens us. We try to fill the void with sounds, with work, with hurried conversations. We fear sitting alone for too long because thoughts will flood in. But if we are brave enough to be with ourselves, we will realize that loneliness is not necessarily an enemy. It is the clearest reflection of our true selves. When there's no one left to share the little details of the day with, we learn to handle our emotions ourselves. We can't rely on others' encouragement forever. We have to comfort ourselves and find our own solutions to problems. This process fosters our mental independence. Some people only truly understand what they want after going through a period of solitude. When no longer influenced by the opinions of those around them, they have space to listen to their inner voice. They realize what is important and what is merely habit. They can distinguish their true desires from the expectations of others. Loneliness also teaches us to take responsibility for our lives. When we have companions, it's easier to share burdens. But when we're alone, we understand that our decisions directly affect our future. We can't blame anyone if we make the wrong choices. This self-responsibility helps us grow. No one can be there all the time. Everyone has their own life, their own worries and goals. Expecting someone to be by your side every moment can lead to disappointment. When you understand that companionship is precious, but not permanent, you will become less dependent and appreciate having someone by your side more. Lonely days are also when we confront our deepest fears. Perhaps it's the fear of abandonment. Perhaps it's the fear of not being good enough. When there's no outside voice, these feelings become clearer. If we are brave enough to look them straight in the eye, we will learn how to heal. Some people choose to escape loneliness by constantly seeking attention. But temporary fulfillment cannot replace inner stability. Only when we accept that we can be perfectly fine on our own can we truly be free. Loneliness doesn't mean isolation. We can still have friends and family, but we still need time alone to understand ourselves. A balance between connection and independence helps us build healthier relationships. When we're not overly dependent, we approach others willingly, not out of fear. During our time alone, we have the opportunity for personal growth. We read books, learn new skills, and reflect on our long-term goals. Without the distractions of numerous appointments, we have time to focus on what matters most. Many great ideas are formed in such quiet moments. Loneliness also cultivates patience. When faced with difficulties and no one immediately offers help, we learn to find solutions ourselves. Each problem solved is a small step in building self-confidence. Gradually come to believe that we can face challenges. Some people, after a period of loneliness, have completely changed their perspective on life. They are no longer afraid of being alone. They know that the presence of others is a gift, but not a prerequisite for happiness. Peace begins from within, not from external noise. Lonely days also help us understand the value of companionship. Once we become accustomed to standing on our own 2 feet, we appreciate even more those who choose to stay. We don't take care of others for granted. We know that everyone has the right to leave, and therefore staying becomes more precious. No one can be with you all the time because everyone has their own journey, so there are stretches of road we must walk alone. But it is these solitary steps that make us stronger when we meet new companions. We approach them as a more mature version of ourselves. Looking back, we can realize that those lonely days that once made us sad were actually the most important times for growth. Without those quiet moments, we might not have understood ourselves as deeply as we do now. If we always had someone by our side, we might never have learned to stand on our own 2 feet. Loneliness isn't a state we want to prolong, but it's a natural part of life. Instead of fighting it, we can learn to accept and embrace it. Each time we overcome feelings of emptiness, we gain a little more confidence in our abilities. Lonely days are when we learn to stand on our own 2 feet. No one can be with us all the time. We understand and accept that we will no longer fear the silences. We know that no matter the circumstances, we can still rely on ourselves. And when we are strong enough to stand on our own, we will enter relationships with a different mindset. No longer dependent, no longer excessively afraid of loss. We connect because we want to share, not because we need to fill a void. That is the maturity that those quiet days of solitude bring. Happiness doesn't fall from the sky. It's not a chance gift we can passively wait for. Happiness is sown through perseverance and daily effort. Like a seed, if it's not cared for, not watered with persistent action, it won't sprout. Many people hope to wake up one day and everything good will naturally appear. But in reality, lasting happiness is always the result of a quiet, continuous effort. Some people think happiness is luck. They look at the success of others and attribute it to the favor of fate. They see a harmonious family and think it's natural. They see a healthy person, a stable career, a peaceful mind, and assume these things come naturally. But behind every achievement are long days of hard work that few people see. Happiness at work doesn't come from a single opportunity. It comes from striving to do your best each day, learning a new skill, and correcting an old mistake. Progress might be slow and no one might praise you, but those small steps are building a solid foundation. One day, when the opportunity arises, you'll be ready to seize it because you've prepared. The same applies to happiness and family life. No relationship can be sustainable if it's based solely on initial feelings. Love needs to be nurtured through listening, compromise, and small acts of care every day. A family meal, a word of inquiry, a well-timed hug. These seemingly simple things accumulate into a feeling of security and warmth. Many people wait for a major change to feel happy. They think that only when they have more money, achieve a title, or meet someone special can they truly smile. But if we don't learn to appreciate the small steps, even great happiness can become fragile. Because when we're not used to nurturing it, we easily lose what we have. Perseverance is a crucial element in the journey of cultivating happiness. There are days when we feel tired, times when our efforts seem fruitless. It is precisely these moments that truly test our resilience. If we give up halfway, the seed will wither before it even sprouts. But if we continue to nurture it, even slowly, we are building the foundation for the future. Daily effort doesn't have to be something grand. It could be waking up a little earlier to exercise, reading a few extra pages, or completing tasks on time. It could be choosing to speak kindly instead of angrily, choosing forgiveness instead of holding a grudge. These small, repeated choices will make a big difference. Happiness also comes from daring to take responsibility for one's own life. Instead of blaming circumstances, we find ways to improve ourselves. Instead of waiting for others to change, we start with ourselves. When we realize we can influence the future, we feel more proactive. The feeling of being in control of our lives is a profound form of happiness. Some people experience many failures before achieving their goals. If they only believed in luck, they probably would have given up long ago. But thanks to perseverance, they learn from each setback. Every mistake becomes an experience. Every difficulty becomes motivation. Their happiness is not fleeting joy, but a sense of contentment when looking back on the journey they have taken. Daily effort also helps build self-confidence. Completing a small goal strengthens our belief in our abilities. This belief motivates us to set bigger goals. This process repeats, and gradually, we realize we've progressed far beyond our starting point. The feeling of growth and progress brings lasting joy. Happiness is not just about feeling joyful, it's also about finding peace in the face of challenges. Those who cultivate happiness through effort won't panic when faced with difficulties. They understand that every achievement takes time. They believe in the process. This belief helps them maintain inner stability. Sometimes we compare ourselves to others and feel like we're falling behind, but everyone has their own pace. If we only look at other people's final results and forget about our own journey, we easily lose motivation. True happiness doesn't lie in surpassing others, but in being better today than yesterday. Personal progress is the most important measure of success. Daily effort also teaches us to appreciate our achievements. After putting in a lot of effort, we understand the value of what we've accomplished. We don't take it for granted. This appreciation helps happiness last longer. Joy doesn't just come when you achieve a goal, but also appears throughout the entire process of striving. There are times when we feel tired and want to stop. That's perfectly natural. Perseverance doesn't mean never resting. Perseverance means knowing when to rest to recover and then keep going. Self-care is also part of the effort. When our body and mind are cared for, we have enough energy to continue sowing. Happiness also comes from sharing. When we strive and achieve something, helping others also creates profound joy. Giving enriches the meaning of our accomplishments. Happiness, therefore, is no longer a personal matter, but becomes a source of spreading energy. Looking back at the most difficult periods in our lives, we can realize that they are what helped us grow. Overcoming a challenge makes us stronger. Solving a problem makes us more confident. These experiences contribute to a solid foundation for future happiness. Happiness doesn't fall from the sky. If you just sit and wait, you'll be disappointed. But if you sow a small seed each day with positive action, you're preparing a garden full of flowers and fruit. The results may not appear immediately, but the change is happening quietly. When we understand that happiness is a process, not a destination, we feel less pressure. Each day becomes an opportunity to sow seeds. Every effort, however small, is meaningful. We don't need to reach a perfect standard to be happy. We can find joy in every step we take. Life is full of changes. There will be things beyond our control. But our attitude and actions each day are ultimately our own choices. When we choose perseverance and effort, we are laying the foundation for lasting happiness. Not fleeting happiness, but a deep satisfaction with the journey we have taken. So instead of waiting for a miracle, start today. Sow a small seed with a positive action. Believe that perseverance will yield results. Happiness is not a coincidence. It's just the fruit of days you didn't give up, of times you chose to try even when tired. And when you look back, you will see that your garden of happiness was cultivated from that very persistence. There are stories that don't need the spotlight or acclaim, yet they still have the power to move people's hearts. One such story is that of a single mother. She worked and raised her child, enduring many exhausting nights where she would fall asleep as soon as she lay down. Years later, looking back, she understands that those difficult times forged her inner strength. The day she decided to move on alone with her child, the sky seemed heavy. Not because she was weak, but because countless unknowns lay ahead. From someone who once had support, she had to learn to become the pillar of the family. Every decision no longer affected only her, but also shaped the future of a child. Her mornings begin much earlier than most people's, before the city even wakes up. She's already up preparing breakfast, tidying her child's clothes, and checking their school bag. These small, daily tasks, seemingly simple, consume a considerable amount of energy. Then she hurries to work, carrying with her the constant worry about her child. The job isn't always easy. There are days when the pressure is overwhelming, times when she receives criticism, and sometimes when she has to work overtime until late at night. But no matter how tired she is, she always tries her best to do her job well. She understands that financial stability is the foundation for her children to have a more comfortable life. In the evening, upon returning home, instead of resting, she resumes another role. She checks her children's homework, listens to their stories from school, and comforts them when they are sad. There are nights when her children are sick, and she stays awake all night, filled with worry and fear. Those moments make her feel small, but it is also at those times that a mother's love becomes stronger than ever. There were times she wondered why life challenged her so much. Seeing others with complete families, with someone to share the burdens, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. But then, every time she saw her child smile, saw her child growing up day by day, she found renewed motivation. Her child's smile became the energy that helped her keep going. The most exhausting nights are usually when everything seems to pile up at once. Rent is due, work is unfinished, and the children need more attention. There are nights when she sits alone in her quiet room, tears silently falling, but the next morning she still gets up, adjusts her hair, and smiles at her children as if nothing stormed the world. It was during those seemingly unbearable days that she gradually discovered her inner strength. Previously, she thought of herself as weak and vulnerable, but circumstances forced her to be strong. Each difficulty she overcame made her realize she could accomplish more than she thought. As time passed, her child grew older. The little one who once needed to be carried in her mother's arms could now prepare her own books and school supplies. She began to understand her mother's hardships and helped with small chores around the house. Her child's innocent yet sincere words made her feel that all her efforts were worthwhile. Once my child asked why I was always so busy yet still managed to smile. I hugged her and said it was because I wanted her to see that life, even in its hardships, can still be beautiful. That answer wasn't just for my child. It was also a reminder to myself. Each smile was a way for me to affirm that I wouldn't be defeated by circumstances. Years later, looking back, she no longer sees it as just a series of exhausting days. She sees it as a journey of self-improvement. The pressure itself helped her mature and become more confident. She learned how to manage her finances, how to organize her time, and how to control her emotions. Her patience was also honed through each challenge. Raising a child is never easy, especially when you're alone. Sometimes the child is stubborn, sometimes they make mistakes. Instead of getting angry, she learned to listen and guide. That calmness didn't come naturally, it was cultivated through countless difficult situations. Someone once asked her if she regretted what had happened. She smiled and shook her head. Without those events, she probably wouldn't have known how strong she was. She wouldn't have realized that she could both work hard and raise her children well. Her story is not uncommon. There are many single mothers out there silently fighting every day. They don't need pity, they need understanding. They are doing extraordinary things in seemingly ordinary situations. Inner strength isn't something you're born with. It's forged through challenges. If your life had only been smooth sailing, you probably would never have known you could stand firm against adversity. It was hardship that tempered you like fire forging steel. Now that her child is older, she can take a few quiet moments for herself without the anxiety she once felt. Watching her child walk confidently, she understands that every sleepless night, every tear had meaning. Not only has her child grown up, but she has grown up alongside them. She realized that happiness isn't without difficulties. Happiness is when you overcome difficulties and still maintain your faith. The difficult years didn't take anything away from her. On the contrary, they gave her resilience and self-confidence. The story of that single mother is proof that people can be much stronger than they think. When faced with the choice between giving up and getting back up, she chose to stand up. And each day she stood strong, contributed to shaping the person she is today. Looking back years later, she can no longer remember all the specific exhausting nights. But she clearly remembers the feeling that she didn't give up. That decision to keep going, however slowly, changed her life. From someone who was once lost and confused, she became a strong support for her child and for herself. Life may not be perfect, but in that imperfection, she found meaning. It was the difficult times that forged her inner strength. And that strength not only helped her raise her children, but also helped her believe that even with challenges ahead, she can continue moving forward with faith and determination. Every step, however slow, is better than standing still. In a life full of competition and comparison, many people are obsessed with speed. They fear being slower than others, fear being left behind, fear not meeting the milestones set by society. But what matters is not how fast you go, but whether you keep moving forward. Perseverance is the deciding factor in whether you reach your destination or stop along the way. There are times when we feel like we're progressing very slowly. Our work hasn't seen any breakthroughs, our finances aren't stable, and we lack many skills. Looking around, others seem to have progressed further. This feeling can easily discourage us. But if we stop because of comparison, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to improve. Even a slow step is still movement. It shows you haven't given up. Even if you only move a little each day, you're still moving away from your starting point. Big changes always begin with small shifts. If you persevere and repeat them, those small steps will create a significant distance over time. Many successful people aren't successful because they excelled from the start. They simply didn't give up. While others quit because they were tired, they rested and continued. When they failed, they adjusted and moved on. The difference wasn't in exceptional talent, but in the ability to persevere. Standing still often stems from fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, fear of being judged. We hesitate, overthink, and ultimately do nothing. But inaction is also a choice, and it's a choice that keeps us stuck in one place. Meanwhile, even if we move slowly, we are still learning and gaining experience. Speed sometimes only provides a fleeting feeling. Going too fast without a solid foundation can lead to stumbling. Conversely, perseverance helps us build a strong foundation. Each skill carefully honed, each lesson learned thoroughly, becomes a lasting support. The same applies to learning. Not everyone learns quickly. Some people need more time to understand a topic. But if they are patient and learn a little more each day, the final results can still be very impressive. The important thing is not to give up halfway. In their careers, many people start at a low level and take years to reach their goals. They don't rush things or leapfrog too quickly. They accept a slow pace to gain a deeper understanding and accumulate experience. It is this perseverance that helps them stand firm when faced with major challenges. In relationships, perseverance is also crucial. No relationship is perfect from the start. It takes time to understand each other, to adjust, and to forgive. If you only seek initial intense emotions without persistent nurturing, the relationship is unlikely to last. Life isn't a short-term race, but a long journey. If you think of it as a long-distance race, I'll understand that conserving energy and maintaining a steady pace is more important than sprinting and becoming exhausted. Only those who know how to adjust their pace can go far. There are days when you feel like you haven't accomplished anything significant. But if you look back a year, you can see that you've changed a lot. Those changes didn't come from one big leap, but from countless small, repeated steps. It's this repetition that creates strength. Perseverance doesn't mean stubbornness. It's about being steadfast in pursuing a goal, but flexible in how you achieve it. When one approach doesn't work, you adjust. When one path isn't suitable, you find another. But you don't give up the desire to move forward. Many people give up simply because they don't see immediate results. They forget that most achievements take time to accumulate. Like planting a seed, you can't expect to see the plant grow overnight. But if you water and care for it every day, it will gradually develop. Every step, however slow, helps you understand yourself better. You learn your strengths and weaknesses. You learn how to manage your time, emotions, and expectations. These lessons have lasting value, far exceeding the immediate speed of progress. Sometimes society glorifies stories of rapid success, causing us to forget that much of their journey was a quiet process. Behind a leap forward are often years of preparation. If we only see the brilliant moment without acknowledging the effort behind it, we easily feel ourselves to be lagging behind. Going slowly also allows us to enjoy the journey. When there's no pressure to reach the destination quickly, we can observe, learn, and experience. The journey becomes more meaningful when we are truly present in each step. There are people who used to think they weren't capable enough because their progress was too slow. But when they persevered a little longer, they realized a significant change. What used to make them feel insecure now became a strength. If they had stopped sooner, they would never have seen it. Perseverance also builds self-confidence. When you overcome a difficult period by not giving up, you know that you can do the same in the future. That confidence is a powerful motivator for the journey ahead. Every step, however slow, is better than standing still, because it affirms that you are proactive in your life. You don't wait for circumstances to change. You create change yourself. Even if it's small, this proactiveness brings a sense of control and confidence. It's not speed that matters, but perseverance. Once you understand this, you'll compare yourself to others less and feel less pressure. You'll focus on improving each day instead of trying to prove you're faster than someone else. You'll accept your own pace. Each person's life is a different journey. Some have a smooth start, while others have to overcome many obstacles. But the common thread among those who persevere to the end is that they don't stop. They may be slow, they may stumble, but they keep going. So, if you feel like you're moving very slowly today, don't be discouraged. Remember that every small step counts. As long as you don't stand still, you're getting closer to your goal. Perseverance will take you further than any sudden burst of speed. And one day, looking back, you'll see that those slow steps were what created the lasting success in your life. When you dare to overcome suffering, you will find yourself much stronger than you imagined. No one wants suffering in their life. Everyone hopes for a smooth, easy path ahead with few obstacles. But in reality, growing up always comes with challenges. And it is in those seemingly unbearable moments that people discover the hidden strength within themselves. Suffering takes many forms. It could be the breakdown of a once important relationship. It could be the failure of a job you've poured your heart and soul into. It could be the feeling of loneliness in a crowd when no one truly understands what you're going through. Each pain has its own unique color, but the common thread is that it makes us feel small and fragile. The natural human reaction to suffering is avoidance. We try to forget, deny, or blame circumstances. We wish it had never happened. But the more we avoid it, the longer the pain lingers. Only when we dare to look directly at ourselves and accept that we are hurting can the healing process truly begin. Overcoming suffering doesn't mean pretending to be strong. It's not about suppressing emotions or acting indifferent. It's about allowing yourself to be sad, allowing yourself to be vulnerable for a certain period of time, and then slowly getting back up. Courage isn't about not crying, but about continuing to move forward after you've finished crying. There are nights when you feel like everything is falling apart. Plans you've made suddenly vanish. Trust in someone is betrayed. You wonder why you have to go through this? But if you're patient enough to look back after some time, you'll realize that those very events have changed you profoundly. Suffering forces us to reflect on ourselves. We learn to discern what truly matters. We understand that not everything we desire is right for us. Some losses may initially cause regret, but in the long run, they open up better paths. When you dare to overcome suffering, you begin to realize that your capacity for endurance is far greater than you imagined. Before, you might have thought that if it happened, you wouldn't be able to continue. But then you still continue. Still wake up every morning, still work, still eat, still breathe. The continuation of life is proof of your strength. Suffering also teaches us empathy. Having been hurt, we understand the feelings of others more deeply. We are less judgmental, less quick to make conclusions. We know that behind someone's smile, there may be an untold story. Our own experiences help us become more compassionate. Many people, after going through difficult times, have changed their perspective on life. They no longer take the small things for granted. They cherish their health, their family, and moments of peace. Suffering is like a heavy rain. It may soak you, but afterward, the sky clears up. Inner strength doesn't come naturally. It's forged through challenges. If life were always smooth sailing, we probably would never know how resilient we truly are. Adversity forces us to adapt, change, and grow. Some people have experienced devastating setbacks in their careers. They lost their jobs, their income, and their self-confidence. But after a period of despair, they began learning new skills and trying their hand at different fields. Looking back, they realized that those events pushed them out of their comfort zone, helping them find a more suitable path. Some people have experienced heartbreak and thought they would never love again. But when they learn to love themselves first, they become more confident and stronger. One day, they enter a new relationship with a different mindset, no longer dependent or fearful as before. Overcoming suffering is also a journey of forgiveness. Forgive others for hurting you. And more importantly, forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made. When you no longer carry the burden of resentment, your soul becomes lighter. Sometimes we think that being strong means never falling. But in reality, being strong means knowing you can fall and still getting back up. Resilience isn't about avoiding every fall, but about not letting them define who you are. When you overcome great pain, smaller difficulties that follow no longer cause you the same panic. You know you've survived something worse. That belief creates calmness and resilience in subsequent situations. Suffering also helps us understand the value of happiness. If we have never experienced loss, it is difficult to appreciate what we have. If we have never experienced the darkness of night, it is difficult to fully appreciate the beauty of dawn. It is this contrast that makes life profound. Perhaps right now, you're still in the middle of a storm. You can't see the light ahead yet. It's perfectly normal. Recovery takes time, but as long as you don't give up on yourself, you're already getting through the pain. Every day you choose to keep going is a small victory. Every time you confront your fear instead of running away is a step forward. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it's happening little by little. Looking back on your journey, you'll be surprised by yourself. You'll realize you once thought you couldn't endure it, but ultimately you overcame it. You once thought you were weak, but in reality, you were just learning to be strong. When you dare to overcome suffering, you not only escape sadness, but you also build a more mature version of yourself. A version that understands its own worth, appreciates life, and doesn't easily succumb to challenges. Life is full of losses and hurts. But each time you face and overcome them, you are expanding your limits. You are proving that you are capable of adapting and moving forward. So, if you're hurting today, don't rush to judge yourself as weak. Allow yourself to feel it, and then move on step by step. One day, when the storm has passed, you'll look back and smile. You'll find yourself much stronger than you imagined. And it is this journey through suffering that has created the lasting strength for your life. The path beneath your feet may not be smooth. There are rocky stretches, winding turns that make you hesitate, but every step you take today, however slow or tiring, is silently laying the foundation for tomorrow's happiness. No step is meaningless if you truly strive. Many people only see the destination and forget the value of the journey. They want happiness to come quickly. They want success to come early. But all lasting results require time to accumulate. Just like a tree must take deep root before it can grow tall. People also need to go through challenges before reaching peace and fulfillment. Difficulties are not the end. They are tests that help you understand yourself better. When faced with challenges, you learn patience. When you stumble, you learn how to get back up. When you fail, you learn how to adjust. Every experience contributes to building your inner strength. You might be tired today. You might feel like you're moving too slowly compared to others. But don't forget that everyone has their own pace. The important thing isn't comparing yourself to others, but whether you keep moving forward. As long as you don't stop, you're still moving ahead. Happiness isn't a gift that falls from the sky. It's created from the days you don't give up, from the times you choose to try instead of giving up, from the moments you believe in yourself even before seeing results. It is in this process that happiness is quietly taking root. One day, looking back, you'll realize that the bumpy roads that once made you anxious were actually where you grew stronger. You'll understand that without those challenges, you wouldn't be the person you are today. Every step you take today is writing the story of your tomorrow. So, don't be afraid of difficulties. Don't be afraid of days when things don't go as planned. Believe that every small effort is contributing to building the future. The path beneath your feet belongs to you, and only you can walk it. If you believe that each person must walk their own path to growth, please share this video and leave your thoughts. Perhaps your story will inspire someone who needs the strength to continue their journey.